And we are on. And this time I think I got it right as that little red light turned on because I'm used to looking at a counter, but I'm not used to like staring at the light waiting for it to turn on. But I think I hit the cue perfectly this time. As you can see, Chris Kaufman is not here. I usually say that he's on assignment, but no, he's just sick. He's sick as a dog, so he couldn't make it. We do have a prediction from him, by the way. But that is Simon Clancy right there in that box. And this is me. And as always, we are brought to you by 305-800-PAIN. People, please stop calling the Dolphins, calling 305-800-PAIN after you watch the Dolphins play. Hopefully you won't have to do that after Monday night. But just like the Dolphins, you're going to need to be ready too. After an accident, your first move should be to call 305-800-PAIN. Better Business Bureau accredited with an A+ rating. Your car accident, personal injury specialist, fast connection with trusted doctors and attorneys, always ready to take your call 24/7. Again, that's 305-800-PAIN, 305-800-PAIN. All right, Simon, we're going to start in an odd place here. Although we will get into when the Dolphins are on defense. We'll start off the show with that. There's some interesting things that I've picked up from watching and talking to some people with the Jets, their issues, how they kind of play into the hands of what Miami not does well, but what Miami is trying to do. So we're going to get into some of that. But I wanted to start here. Have you been watching Mike McDaniel's press conferences as of late?
No.
Okay. There are guys that just do not do well with losing, and that's fine. Like there's, Bill Belichick was grumpy and short with the media and sometimes outright hostile. And God knows he's having a bitch of a time right now at UNC. But Mike McDaniel is just I think that the Dolphins need a win for him more than they actually need a win for the team. He's deteriorating before our eyes. Like what must that pressure be behind the scenes for Mike McDaniel? Because here's what I've always thought. I always thought that money affords a lot of things. One thing that it does afford is that you don't have to give a shit what anybody thinks about you because you're kind of secure. He is secure, but these guys are professionals. And do you think that he's feeling that pressure? Like he feels like a failure?
Of course, 100%. And do you remember the photo of him, the very first kind of media photo of him for the media guide, and then the kind of the guy with the sunglasses and the beard who looked like the kind of tanned, rizzed up South Beach Coke tycoon. Yeah. Now he's kind of metamorphosed into somebody who looks like he's essentially just being kept in an underground bunker without food. Which is, so you've got the three kind of, you've got this sort of meek and mild, kind of very clean shaven sort of, then you've got the Coke dealer, South Beach Coke dealer, and now you've got a guy who was essentially underground with Aaron Rodgers, but has just stayed there longer, hasn't been fed, and is holding up a newspaper with a date to prove that he's still alive.
Yeah, somebody had a great, because he does look like Mark Anthony. You know who Mark Anthony is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody said they put side by side and they put a picture of him in 2023 and they go Mark Anthony with J-Lo, and then they put a picture of him today and they go Mark Anthony today. Yeah, he does not look well. And his answers in his press conferences are, I'm not going to call them bizarre, but they're dodgy. And I'm not going to call him a liar because coaches lie. Nobody tells the truth. No coach is out there absolutely telling the truth. Like, have you ever heard a coach ever say, when asked, how's this guy doing? That guy is absolute crap, and I can't wait to bench him. No, they don't say things like that. They tell you things by their actions. Like Keon Smith got benched right in the middle of a game last week. So that tells you all you need to know. So, yeah, I guess you haven't been watching his press conferences, so you can't comment further on that, but I just thought
myself, thank God.
Yeah, but I just got to say, my God, man, I'm suffering for him. Okay, I know he makes a lot of money, but Jesus, like the stress. This must be the biggest stress burger of all time. Like he doesn't look well. He doesn't look well. Like I need this team to win. I don't even want to win for me or for the show, for the podcast, for the fans, for anybody. I want this team to win so Mike McDaniel will look well in one of these press conferences the day after. He does not look well.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be a fun job. I mean, I made a documentary over here with soccer coaches, and the pressure is unbelievable. Like, the pressure is unbelievable. And, I can remember one of them saying to me that they were on a rooftop bar in the summer on holiday and just literally had to be talked off, jumping off the roof. And that was out of season just because the pressure and the stress in season is so much.
Yeah.
Another one said to me, driving home from a game that they'd lost, he said, I was just in the outside lane of the freeway, the motorway here, and he said, one turn of the steering wheel into the central reservation, and I never have to worry about it ever again. And this is the pressure, and these were not Premier League managers. So the pressure for a head coach leading an NFL team, especially when you're responsible for 53 men plus all those coaches plus the practice squad, the operation is enormous. It is enormous. 24/7 media coverage, how many daily shows are there, nightly shows, you got NFL Live in the afternoon, all of those things, boom, 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 the whole time. This kind of relentless nature. It must be the stress, the pressure. What does McDaniel get up at 3 a.m.? Is it 4 a.m.?
That infamous game against the Titans 2 years ago. He walked across the street. You haven't been to the stadium since they built the new facility, have you?
No.
Okay. The facility is essentially in the parking lot. So if you're in the training facility, you could just walk out of the training facility, just walk right across the street into the stadium. Like, they're essentially attached. Like, it's all together. And he very famously, after that game a couple of years ago against Tennessee, walked across the street right to his office and did not go home. So that was after the game. He wanted to look at the film after the game. And I think it hurts him that he's kind of media savvy, and he has a communications department that's going to feed him all the stuff that he wants. I think he's listening to all this stuff because he did an availability with I think it was Dan Patrick, and then he did one with Rich Eisen, but he did the one with Dan Patrick afterwards, and he seemed like really in tune with what everybody was saying. To the point where today he actually mentioned, they asked him, "Oh, have you been figured out?" And he goes, "Yeah, when we don't play well, everybody figures us out. And then when we play well, they stop figuring us out again." Which I thought was a cool answer. But that tells me he's listening to what people are saying. And I don't think that's a good thing, personally. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you like your coach to be that media savvy?
I think it helps. I think it helps, especially with players. It's a different generation of players. This is not the same group of players from 10 years ago, from 15 years ago. Attention spans are way shorter. Everybody's looking at social media. There is so much outside influence. There are so many people. How many players do you see saying that, they're getting messages from they tweet something about how, they've hurt their knee and they're out for the season and it's really hard. And then some of the first messages, dude, you absolutely ruined my, fantasy parlay this weekend. Though, those things are just it must be impossible. The stress, the pressure, wherever you go, people recognize you, especially if you're a superstar. If you're an offensive lineman, less so. But, if you're Justin Jefferson or you're Tua or you're whoever, do you know what I mean? You can't go anywhere the whole time. That intensity must be, I saw Tua talking about Cam Newton today and clapping back at Cam Newton over criticism of how he played. And, it was weird as well because it was almost like Tua had lost the plot a bit because he said, "I want to see anybody in the streets come and play quarterback. It's easy to be able to hold a clicker and talk about it." Dude, this is Cam Newton. Like, this isn't Barney from Best Buy. This is the guy who went to the Super Bowl, won the Heisman, arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time, an NFL MVP. But I do think, to your question, I do think it's important that your coach is media savvy in this era. I think you have to be. You have to understand how the media works. And I think it's very important. And I think Mike McDaniel has done a very good job of it, because I think it helps your longevity. Because oftentimes the local media are the people that make and break you, or make or break you. And I think befriending that media and knowing people's names and all those sorts of things is extremely important, because I think when the chips are down and other people are turning, if you have befriended the media in a way, there's there's an unconscious bias, and it makes it more difficult for people to turn on you because
Mm-hmm.
you have been nice and you do have a relationship, and you feel bad if you're a journalist sitting there writing about somebody that you have a relationship with every day, and you know what they're going through, and you know what their wives are going to be going through, and you know that they're getting up at 4 a.m. to go to work every day. You know, if Mike McDaniel was turning up at 9 and, you know, eating sandwiches, playing PlayStation in his pants, that's different. But he's working 16, 17, 18-hour days the whole time. And yes, he's remunerated, you know, extremely well. Doesn't stop you. Yeah, no amount of money stops you feeling pressure or guilt or disappointment or angst or upset, or, you know, the stress and pressure must be overwhelming. And he's got a wife and a small daughter. He's trying to be a father, and it's very easy for us as fans. It's very easy for the media to isolate those things and just see them as the guy that wins or the guy that loses. And actually, once you strip away all those things, they're human beings. They hurt, they cry, they, you know, all of those things. They're family people, their fathers, their husbands, their sons. And we tend to forget about that when we're calling for their job or telling them they suck or flying an airplane over the stadium saying we want them to, you know, die. I mean, that's not what the airplane said, but, you know, all of those things. And I think we have a tendency just to forget that because we're like, there's been a debate on social media today about people messaging me going, you know, another failed draft for the Dolphins and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, it's 3 games, lads. It's 3 games. And as I said, as we discussed on Monday, you know, if we're judging, you know, Kenneth Grant in 3 games, we may as well give up. You know, we may as well give up. And also, if you're expecting Kenneth Grant to do anything on the stat sheet, that's not ever going to be his role. His role is not going to show up on the stat sheet. It's going to be helping others show up on the stat sheet. But it's like we're at the point where now, after 3 games, we're discussing whether or not a certain player is a bust. And I think that is indicative of a society that we're a part of. And I think coaches and players, but especially coaches, have to meander their way through that unbelievable minefield. And yeah, for Mike McDaniel, it's a difficult job. It's a really hard job when you're. I mean, there's quite a good analogy that I heard today. Terry Arnold and Patrick Surtain were on Kay Adams' show, and Arnold said, you know, if you're a cornerback, you make 3 bad plays, it's 21. That's 21 points. If you're a wide receiver, you make 3 bad plays, it's 4th down. And that's the difference. And I think I think that goes for coaches. I think that you're always the guy that gave up. You know, you're the cornerback, and if you lose, you're giving up points, the equivalent of, i.e., you're losing games. And I think that, you know, it's really easy just to forget that these people are people and not just, you know, these kind of totemic figures at the top of sports teams. And it happens whatever sport you like, whether that's baseball, football, soccer, whatever. And we're all guilty of doing it, and we do it all the time. And society and social media has made that worse.
Yeah, and it also depends on the market. Look, when Brian Flores got fired here, and like some of us were not too surprised. There are other people in the media that were not surprised at all. But what should have been met with a surprise, a lot of the media were like, "This is not such a bad thing when you think about it," you know, because he was acerbic. He was not good with the local media, and he had even when winning, even when they went 10-6 that second year. And the team was kind of fun to watch because they were young and they weren't particularly talented, but they were winning football games. You know, he was short with the media. He was hostile with certain members of the media. Threatened one guy. He wanted to fight one guy one time. Okay. So when he got fired, nobody really went up to bat for him. But when it comes to somebody like Mike McDaniel, yeah, there's people that are going to defend him and they're going to stick up for him. I just think that he's having a bitch of a time right now, and he needs a win more than the team needs a win. All right, let's get into this. Jets played a really good game against the Buccaneers last week, but the final score was a liar. The score was 26-6 in the fourth quarter when Todd Bowles stopped blitzing, and all of a sudden Tyrod Taylor just went Super Saiyan on them, and they had a blocked field goal for a touchdown that drew them closer. And then, of course, Baker did Baker things. I spoke to somebody that covers the Jets, and he said this team cannot block blitzes. You blitz them, and it's Justin Fields, especially Tyrod Taylor this last week. By the way, it looks like Justin Fields will play. He was a full go today. He was not cleared from the concussion protocol, but I was told if he practiced on Wednesday, he would play on Monday. So Justin Fields will be the quarterback. They can't block blitzes. But Miami, for whatever reason, has the highest blitz rate, but can't get pressures. Now, I don't know how you come up with that number, but obviously it matters. Uh, your thoughts on this mix? Because now it's going to be Justin Fields. That's something they don't do well and something that we do, but we just haven't done well yet. Your thoughts on that matchup, Justin Fields versus the Dolphin Blitz?
Yeah, I mean, what was the last time that Justin Fields played the Dolphins? The famous game when Mike McDaniel just told him to stop. I mean, what did he have?
168 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you unleash him against this defense. And I think part of the problem people were saying to me yesterday was, why is Chop Robinson not playing? Why is Chop Robinson not playing? Well, part of it is a knee issue. He is carrying a knee issue that he suffered in the Colts game. But part of it is, and I'm told it is a significant dissatisfaction with the way that he is playing in terms of the run. He is not maintaining lane discipline when he is attacking the pocket. And I mean, you mentioned it there. The Dolphins had the highest blitz rate in the NFL, whilst also being 32nd in pressure rate. I mean, that is, I've never seen that before.
I don't know how it's possible.
I don't know how it's possible either. I mean, that is the worst statistic in history.
Yeah.
And again, we keep repeating it, but Phillips and Chubb do not look like the same players. They are not the same players they were, and it's a shame. Bradley Chubb is obviously 30 and coming off the significant injury, and Jalen, unfortunately, it is still a good player, but he just lacks the explosion that he once had.
I will disagree on Jalen Phillips in this regard. If you watch his all 22 against Buffalo, there are signs there that he is coming along and he's looking good. The problem is that Bradley Chubb has the counting stats. Bradley Chubb does not look like he's coming along. He looks done. And if I were the Dolphins at the deadline, I would implore Chris Greer. I'm almost begging you. I know you're going to be tempted to take a pick for Jalen Phillips. The guy you should be taking a pick for somebody that needs a pass rusher is Bradley Chubb. And hopefully Bradley Chubb keeps tacking on those sacks and he'll have 10 by the trade deadline. But I think you should see this thing through with Jalen Phillips, because there are plays in that game against Buffalo that you watch him and you're like, that's the Jalen Phillips from before. So I would caution against throwing in the towel on Jalen Phillips. On Bradley Chubb, I think we're done.
I'm not saying we're throwing in the towel. I'm saying that he's not the same player that he was, and for me, that has been extremely evident in 3 games. Now, I can't sit here and say you can't judge Kenneth Garnett on 3 games, but you can judge Jalen Phillips on 3 games coming back from 2 serious injuries. He obviously has to have more time than that, but I don't see the explosion I once did. Now, whether or not that is just rust and his body, him finding his body underneath himself, remains to be seen. But yeah, I think that what we thought was going to be an extremely good pass rush with potentially the ability to hold up and protect that secondary, because we would be able to get home with 4, has not been the case, which is why we've got the highest blitz rate. The fact that we can't get to the quarterback and have the worst pressure rate in the league defies almost logic. It's some kind of end of Interstellar stuff in terms of how that's going. So yeah, I don't know. And we talked about it on Monday. We talked about what Weaver was trying to do, and he is trying to do all sorts of different things. But if you can't rush the passer, you don't have a lot of hope, even if you have a really good secondary. And we have a terrible secondary, and we can't get close to the quarterback. And that is a massive issue. You know, the sacks that we've had have been hoovering up sacks. They've not really been, they've not beat somebody and take the quarterback down. They're not Micah Parsons sacks. They're not Myles Garrett sacks. These are, quarterback trying to flee a pocket and hoover somebody up. I mean, 3 games in, we've not had a turnover, have we? We certainly haven't had a defensive turnover.
Yeah, we're one of 3 teams. And this is a battle because they're facing one of the other 3 teams that doesn't have a turnover, which is the New York Jets.
Yeah.
So. Maybe both teams don't turn it over.
It's just a difficult situation.
Yeah. It's just odd. It really is. It really is odd. And yeah, a lot of their sacks are just cleanup sacks, and that's where I started noticing. Like Bradley Chubb's sack against the Bills against Josh Allen. That sack was born from Jalen Phillips beating his man. He beat Spencer Brown clean, forced Josh Allen to step up into the
He
pocket,
did. He
and
did.
at that time, Kenneth Grant and Zach Sealer were clogging up the middle. Josh Allen tried to escape, and he ran right into Bradley Chubb. And there goes. There goes his third sack. Um, Obviously, in this game, Simon, there's a stat that I saw that it tells you the entire story of this defense. They got to somehow win on first down. Do you know what Buffalo was on 3rd and 7 and more?
I mean, I probably no idea. 10 of 12 or something ridiculous.
0 for 5. 3rd and 7 and more. 0 for 5. Do you know what they were in 3rd and 7 or less?
10 of 12.
6 for 6.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yeah.
So if you're forcing 3rd and long, you have a reasonable chance to get off the field. And I think they're going to somehow have to win on first down. Now, here's
they just can't stop the run. That's the problem. I mean,
yeah,
it's a huge issue. You know,
that's what I was going to get at.
Yeah, Zach Sealer is obviously not playing well, but
no.
Part of that is I think that we have changed, and it's not even a subtle change actually in terms of what we're doing. He obviously succeeds. You know, you go back and look at. I went back and looked at a few games just to sort of think like what's being done differently, and it's really obvious. We're not running stunts in games in the way that we used to do it. And he was a player that thrived off of success on stunts and games. Did it really well with Christian Wilkins, but did it last year really well as well. This year, Kenneth Grant is not a stunts and games person. He's 331 pounds. He is that is just not him. Jordan Phillips, that is not him either. There is not really a pure stunts and games guy on the roster. And, it's not like you can easily rotate in. It's not like you can easily rotate in specific players who can play more than 1 or 2 downs. It's very difficult to bring in a Matthew Butler, for example, and say, oh, Matthew, you are however much he weighs, 305 pounds, but you're going to play an entire series of 7, 8, 9 so that we can run, because maybe he can do it. But I think what you're seeing, let's just take Joe Brady as the example. Joe Brady and his team of people around him will be saying, well, we know that Kenneth Grant can't do it. We know that Benito Jones can't do it. We know that Jordan Phillips, that's not what he does. Yeah, you don't want to be relying on rookies to run stunts and games. Benito Jones is not that kind of guy anyway. Mm-hmm. He's a 337-pound nose tackle. So if a guy like Matthew Butler is coming in, you automatically know that's what he's doing. Do you know what? That's what they're trying to set up, and it's part of that chess game. And I think that the difficulty for Sealer is that he's just not got the partner in crime to be able to unleash him, and that is an issue. But until they can get pressure with 4, until they can collapse the interior of the pocket and force people off a landmark, force quarterbacks off a landmark, get them off their platform, resetting their feet, and get some hits on a quarterback. Until they can do that, they're not going to get anywhere. But they're also not playing run very well. They can't hold up on the interior, and then when it gets to the edge, teams are able to run underneath them because of their outside pass rush. Is this the whole time? It's very much round the. Again, they're not coming underneath tackles. They're not all of the things that you would hope and expect to see from a defensive line is just not happening. And that goes right across the board from edge to edge, and then taking in all of those interior guys, whether that's Butler, Grant, Jones, Phillips, Sealer. I don't think Biggers has been active this season, but Biggers, if he was, that is the pot that they've thrown themselves into, and it's very difficult to get out of because they just don't have the makeup on the team to be able to do that. And if they're re-signing Christian Wilkins, if they're re-signing a guy that can do that, then that will unleash Sealer. And until one of those young guys learns how to do it, maybe it becomes Jordan Phillips, for example. But until one of those guys does it, then it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah,
Phillips is playing better, probably the best against the run. So you actually don't want him doing that so much because it takes him away from what he's doing or okay at.
Yeah, they've tried to do some of those pin and pulls with Kenneth Grant, and you could see he understands how to do it. He just is not good at it.
Yeah, he just can't do it because he's
He just can't do it.
336 pounds. That's not
Yeah,
what he's.
they decided to they. It was like they had like a moment of clarity in the second half against the Bills, and they said, you know what, we're going to partner up Zach Sealer with Jalen Phillips in the second half, and they played Jalen Phillips as a 3-tech. The problem with that is that the Bills on 2nd and 7, when they saw it, they ran it. They ran it on them, and that's how they start giving up. Uh, those longer runs on 2nd down, and then now it's 3rd and 4, and 3rd and 4 against the Bills is just death. It's death by a million cuts, or a million Josh Allen 5-yard runs, or James Cook, or they throw to their tight ends. So you could tell that there was a little moment of desperation, like, man, we got to partner. We got to somehow get Zach Sealer off here, and we're going to partner him up with Jalen Phillips in the pass rush. Problem is that to do that, it might work on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9. But any kind of middle, as on 2nd down, you just can't do it. But if it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for serious trouble doing that, because that just makes you light up front. And you haven't been good to begin with to stop the run. And your linebackers haven't been good. But, we're going to go to break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Dolphins when they're on offense. I got a sarcastic question to start the the second half. I'll see how Simon handles it. But as always, we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Football's back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Now, for tonight, I happen to love a couple of plays. I like Kyler Murray higher than 27.5 rushing yards. And I like Sam Darnold over or higher than 227.5 passing yards. By the way, I do like Seattle, and I will ask Simon a question out of the break about the Seattle Seahawks because they have a look to me. Download the app today and sign up with a promo code 3yards. That's the promo code 3yards, the number 3 yards, to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code 3yards. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win
Be
money.
18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
And we are back. All right, I wanted to ask you this at the top of the show. I'll get into my sarcastic question afterwards. But Seattle, Arizona, look, last week's game wasn't that compelling, but then they started playing football, and it actually was compelling for 55 minutes. So you have that going for you. Tonight, I think it is compelling. I think Seattle's a good football team, Simon. And I don't think that NFC West is stacked because I think that Arizona is good, and they might be the worst team in that division. Now, can the 49ers survive Mac Jones? I don't know, but their win-loss column looks all right. What do you think of that division? And am I crazy to think that the Seattle Seahawks are the best team in that division?
No, I'm not sure that you're crazy. I mean, I think this will be a really good game tonight. I think that Arizona's offense is a little bit limited, especially without James Conner. Marvin Harrison has really struggled. Zay Jones is going to be out, which I know is going to be a problem. And therefore, you're relying a lot on Trey McBride. Obviously, Seattle's offense is really starting to click, and the good receivers. Sam Darnold's playing really well. I haven't seen the inactives list, but the running game is working well with Walker, with Zach Charbonnet. Seahawks' ability to throw downfield to JSN has been excellent, and I think that should give them the edge on the road. What I think about the Cardinals is that I think they have one of the best defenses in the league, and it will be tough for Seattle. But I think that the Seahawks are probably ahead of schedule as to where Mike McDonald probably thought they would be. They probably should be 3-0. And I mean, yeah, I think Trey McBride could end up catching kind of 15 passes. I think Seattle are probably a favorite. But I think that the Cardinals, defenses look good, but offensively they've struggled, as I said, and they've beaten the Saints and the Panthers and were outgained in yardage by both of those teams who are combined 1-5. So I would take Seattle tonight, even in the short week on the road.
Yeah, I like Seattle.
And I think they're a good team.
I like Seattle. I like Seattle a lot. By the way, watching the Cardinals every single game, Calais Campbell's making a big play every single one of these games, right?
I mean, all that money we wasted on bang average players who either aren't playing or have just been really disappointed, and we could have just,
I hope whoever was really, really proud of holding the purse strings really, really tight when it came to Calais Campbell is proud of themselves at this point.
Yeah. I've just seen the inactives actually. Will Johnson's out. I mean, that's big for that defense.
Yeah, he has a hamstring injury.
Zay Jones is out. Will Hernandez is out. Connor obviously out. Charbonnet's in. Boye Maffei's in. Nicky Moore is out. And so big for the Seahawks then. Julian Love and Weatherspoon are back. So yeah, I'd take the Seahawks.
That's a great secondary. Tariq Woolen, a guy to watch. He will be a free agent at the end of the season. So,
yeah. I mean, talking about defenses, and this is really interesting, I think, because you look at the Mike McDonald, obviously, and we've coming from the same coaching staff, worked together for on that Ravens coaching staff. Seattle uses 4-man rushes 83.1% of the time, and their blitz rate is 31st. So only 13%. So the only team blitzing less in the league is the Bengals. And yet they are getting home with a 49.4% pressure rate to lead the NFL. And that's just using, 83% of the time, just using 4 men. That is a nasty unit that has some serious horses to get home on the front. And that's ultimately what I think we thought Miami would be, up there leading the league with their pressure rate by using 4-man rushes and not blitzing at all. And they've just had no pressure. And so Weaver has had to blitz. And we're still getting no pressure. So whether he's blitzing the wrong people, where the blitzes are coming from, who knows? But it is not a good sign. And I think what you'd like to look at, I think Seattle is the absolute kind of what we should be doing, and unfortunately not.
Yeah, but there is one massive difference. If you look at Seattle, they've been injured in secondary. Hard to find a better 4 than what Seattle field every single week. Like, they're loaded. Like, that's a good group, and that's why I want to. And of course, spectacularly coached. Yeah, I would want to take one of their guys away from them. Tariq Woolen, there he goes, and we're back. He's a free agent at the end of the season and will be expensive. One of the few guys I wouldn't mind spending money on. All right, enough of the Seahawks. Now let's talk about the Dolphins, and one guy in particular, and I don't know why I'm Bobby Slowick. Nobody can figure out what he does here, so I think I figured it out. Was he brought here to completely fuck up this passing game, or what? Simon, there's my sarcastic question.
Yeah, I think Tua's doing a pretty good job of fucking up the passing game.
It's a team effort, Simon. It's a team effort.
I mean, look, I think the one thing that you would say about Bobby Slowick is the Texans' offense looks worse now than it did last year. So, in that way, they're making Bobby Slowick look like Sean McVay. So, I mean, Nick Caley's offense in Houston is significantly worse than Slowick's. I don't know what he does, but McDaniel clearly likes him. But I think it's, I think you have to take these things as. I think in the round, if you look at what's happening with Houston, you look at the massive regression of CJ Stroud, the massive regression. I know you talked about it on Monday, but just watching a bit of that all 22 and watching the Bucks game from a couple of weeks ago, there are throws there that he should be making, and he's just not pulling the trigger. So
Yeah, but he's also doing galactically stupid things. Like there was
Yeah,
a play.
right.
I think I spoke about it last week. 2nd and goal at the 2-yard line. Goes back to pass, holds it, comes off of one read, goes to the other side of the field, holds it again. Looks at the check down, doesn't like the picture. Sack. Loss of 10 yards on 2nd and goal from the 2-yard line. Like those are game killers.
Yeah.
Much less drive killers. Like, you can't do that. Get rid of it and play 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line. You know.
Yeah. It's
But I do see a lot of different concepts that Bobby Slowick, I guess, because he's the only new face, so they brought stuff on, and they're trying new things. None of it is working. So, are you ready, like I am, to just say, fuck it, and just go back to the thing that they've done well the last 3 years and just spam the hell out of that for the rest of the season and try to make the most of it?
I mean, I would just be running the ball all the time. You know, I watched a hugely impressive Detroit Lions team go on the road on Sunday night. Was it Sunday night? Yeah, Sunday night. And
Monday night.
Was it Monday night? And beat the Ravens. And they did so. I saw a stat flashed up on the screen. I think it was late 3rd quarter. And I think it said it was the rush pass combo, and it said Detroit had rushed the ball 25 times and thrown it 24 times. And I thought, wow, I wish I lived in that world. And you look at that lineup, and you know, we talk about alien quarterbacks all the time, and Jared Goff is not an alien quarterback because he doesn't have the legs to run around. What he is extremely good, extremely consistent, extremely accurate, and he runs that offense like a dream. I love Jared Goff. I think he's a really good person. I think he got badly treated in LA, and I think what he's doing in Detroit is great.
And he's the best. He is the best, and this is important. He is the best play action quarterback.
Okay.
He's the best play action quarterback in all of football. And with that team, you see the results.
Yeah, he's the best non-alien in the NFL, I think. But you look at that run game, and that run game contains Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. But you replace David Montgomery's name and you put in Ollie Gordon's name, and you replace Jahmyr Gibbs' name and you put in Devon Achan's name, because they're very, very similar players. They're thunder and lightning. Now, obviously, Gordon is 3 games into his career. David Montgomery is 6 into his career. But Achan, you know, Gibbs is a better player, but Achan isn't that far behind. And Achan might be that sort of player, or as good as Jahmyr Gibbs, if the Dolphins ever decided to play Devon Achan the way that the Detroit Lions played Jahmyr Gibbs, because there are significant differences, not subtle differences, significant differences. Now, obviously, the Lions have a significantly better offensive line. Their receivers are outstanding blockers. Every single one of them is an absolute beast. Their tight ends are super blockers. Even Laporta has, you know, he's not an inline guy necessarily, but he's an excellent blocker on the perimeter. He's an excellent blocker down the field. You look at the way Amon-Ra St. Brown gets after people. He is mauling people in the run game. Now, the Dolphins don't have that, but they have the ability to scare teams over the top with Waddle and Hill. And I would just be running. You essentially want to do the reverse of what the Lions are doing. Just keep running. Eventually, they're going to have to bring someone down into the box, because then they're not doing that at the moment because they're scared of being done over the top. The second that happens, when you have success running the football, and I would run it over the left side of the line because that's where your strength and power is. The second you do that, then you can start hitting teams over the top, and then they take that guy out of the box, and then they move people, you know, back in the secondary a bit more, and then you can keep smashing them in the mouth in the run game. But we never, ever, ever commit to doing that, and that's the thing I loved about Ben Johnson. It's the thing I love about John Morton, and it's the thing I love about Dan Campbell, is that they are consistent with what they do. They never move away from their game plan. You never ever hear Dan Campbell, or you never heard Ben Johnson, and you certainly haven't heard Johnny Morton say, the game just got away from us a bit. We couldn't really, almost admitting they forgot about the run game, because that just never happens, because they trust. Yeah, some run plays, you get stuff for, a 1 yard gain, but they keep going at it. They keep working at it. They keep persevering. They don't give up on it, or they just tokenistically call it the odd running play here and there. And it was the run game. You know, as good as Goff was, especially in those critical moments on the big fourth downs, and he had some great throws, but it was the run game that, you know, that 98.5-yard drive, that was absolute toughness and power personified in the run game. And they did that against arguably the best team in the AFC. And that is just not something the Dolphins would ever commit to doing, because that's just not the way they're wired, unfortunately. But to me, if you're going to start winning games, especially come Monday night, I think those two guys in the backfield have to have huge nights. I really do. And win boring. Yeah, it's great to see big old long touchdown passes and sexy runs and high-fiving people at the 5-yard line. Win boring. Just smash some people in the mouth, run some people over, build some confidence in the team, get everybody fired up, get everybody excited, and use that thunder and lightning pair that you've got in the backfield to really make teams worry, because that will just then make them less worried about the passing game, and then you can punch them in the mouth in the passing game the following week against the Panthers. So it's win-win as far as I can see.
Yeah, one thing that the Dolphins, it's weird because the Dolphins are like whack-a-mole. Like, have you ever seen whack-a-mole?
I have.
Okay, or better yet, because whack-a-mole can be fun. They're more like a wall that's leaking, and they keep plugging one hole and then another hole.
They're like a colander.
Yeah, and then another leak develops, and you're like, wait a minute, let me fix this leak. Damn it, there goes that leak, right? They seem to have fixed their 3rd-and-1 problem, and the way that they fixed their 3rd-and-1 problem is like, who would have thought giving it to a 225-pound guy works? You know,
who knew?
Who knew? There's a play against Buffalo. My God, 3 guys get defeated. Tanner Conner ends up on his ass. Okay. Larry Borum gives up the inside. I don't know why he's giving up the B gap, because Jesus Christ, it's a lead play. Why are you giving up the B gap? You're running duo, right? He gives up the B gap. Bernard has Ollie Gordon in the backfield for a loss on 3rd-and-1. Ollie Gordon shrugs him off and proceeds to pick up 11 more up the middle. What a concept, Simon.
Wow.
If that's H-N, that's a loss of 2, if that's H-N on 3rd-and-1. So, yeah, just give that guy the football. Stay behind your run game and try play action, because, that's one thing Tua has always been decent at, and you have the receivers to run it. Try play action. You want your big plays. You want your flashy plays. Have your run game earn those flashy plays. All right, it's time to pick this game. Chris Kaufman already gave us his pick. He said Dolphins 25. I don't know how you arrived at 25. This could be a scoregami game. And Jets 21. I'm going to be pretty much in the same area. Let's say Dolphins 27, Jets 20. What say you, Simon?
Yeah, Dolphins 24, Jets 20.
Yeah, it'll be tight. I don't think the Dolphins are ready to dominate anybody just yet. By the way, I had to get your thoughts on this. What do you think of those uniforms? Have you seen them yet?
The black ones.
Yeah, they're
yeah.
Well, you see, you're not playing into their bit. They keep saying they're pitch blue.
Okay.
And today today they posted video of how they painted the helmets, and the can of paint says pitch blue on it. So I guess they're really trying very, very hard to push this. And by the way, I posted that on our Discord. By the way, if you want to become a member of our Discord, you got to go to discord.gg/OnlyFins. You become a member there, all access for $4.99 a month. They put a picture of them painting the helmets, and they want you to for sure believe that these are pitch blue, whatever that means. I have some shirts coming to me on Monday, so I'll be the judge of that. But what do you think? Because I think they look pretty nice.
Yeah, they look. Is this Monday that we're wearing?
Yeah, they're wearing them on Monday, and the Jets are wearing something as well, but we're not sure what the Jets are wearing.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything to get a win, right?
Yeah. So at least they will look good. Now look good and win. All right, we're gonna have to call it right here. Simon, 1 week away. I guess we're gonna talk about this, but Knowles Canes. That's gonna be
Knowles
fun.
Canes. Yeah. I mean, what? Yeah, I mean, look.
Give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds on that, because I think next week we're going to do 5 minutes on it.
Yeah, I can look. I think the Hurricanes are playing really, really well. They've, to me, got the best player in college football right now, and a guy who was a at worst a de facto top 5 player, and depending on which quarterbacks come out, might be the first guy off the board next year in the draft in Ruben Bain. I think him and Mestor are playing really well. The young guys on offense are playing well. You've obviously got veteran quarterback in Carson Beck. I think the key for the Noles is can they pressure Beck? That's the thing that that is his kryptonite. We saw that at Georgia. We've seen that at times in Miami. These big rivalry games will be, are always slightly different. And it should be an absolute battle because, I credit Mike Norvell. You look at the situation that we were in last year and, 2-win season off the back of nearly making the playoff. And then to turn around this year and do what they've done and knock off Alabama, and he's picked up some great players in the portal, and Tommy C's looking great at quarterback, and they've certainly got a chance, the Noles, and big test on Friday night, just to that kind of trap game against Virginia. But yeah, I think it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be there's some good games this weekend as well. Boy, there's some good games. Oregon, Penn State will be,
that's a nice one.
If we're looking at, pro prospects, you've got literally Drew Aller against Dante Moore. We've got LSU Ole Miss. That's a, tidy game, especially with Whit Weeks, the LSU linebacker, now dating Lane Kiffin's daughter, and Kane getting onto Twitter going take the over when it comes to what's going to happen. So I think it's
I thought that Lane Kiffin had the best comeback, his clapback when he says, "Yes, take the over."
Take the over, yeah.
But by the way, how old do you feel when you hear about the ages of some of these guys? I almost said Dolphins. I wish Dolphins had this guy, but the Canes have their wide receiver, their star wide receiver, Malachi Tony. By the way, if you watch him play, there's no way that you can marry that player with his age, because he looks like he's a 10-year NFL veteran. The way he runs routes, the way he makes plays. He's 17 years old, Simon.
Yeah.
17 years old.
I know, scary, isn't it? Scary, isn't it? It's
and he's the go-to guy. He's the go-to guy, and a good one. So
he is. He's really good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And obviously it's a Doak, and that place will be rocking. So we've got to avoid the rat poison this week of Virginia, and get into you guys next week. And I think, look, how well Florida State hold up with their offensive line against the guys I just mentioned, Bain and Messidor, and can the Noles do what they did in that week 1 game against Alabama in terms of how they move the ball and the way that they move the ball, using Tommy's feet and the passing game and some trick plays, using some of their young guys. I don't know if you've seen the young receivers and the young backs that we've got. A couple of those guys have had great starts to the season. So I think it'll be really interesting because look, it's whether that's Mekhi Danzy or Sam Singleton, getting hold of those guys. Juice Robinson, obviously, he's got he's averaging 25 yards a catch. Mekhi Danzy's averaging 31.5 yards a catch. And the thing that was missing last year with the Noles as well was big plays. And we've had, I'm just looking at stats now. In terms of receiving, Juice Robinson's had an 82-yarder, Danzy's had a 65-yarder, Jalen Lucas had a 64-yarder, Usman Cromer's had a 43-yarder, Sawchuk's had a 53-yarder, Squirrel White's had a 40-yarder, and then in terms of the run game, Danzy's had a 64-yarder himself, 53-yarder for Sam Singleton, Sawchuk's had a 40-yard run, and these were just not things we were doing last year, ripping off, those big explosives. And the defense has showed up as well, led by Darryl Jackson on the defensive line, who'll should be a top 50 pick. And then Earl Little in the secondary's had a really good, a guy you guys know really well anyway. So, look, I think we're the underdogs. But I think, Tommy C's completing 71.1%, and he started the season really well. And, let's hope it continues at Doak next week. But we've got to avoid the rat poison on Friday tomorrow night.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a fun game to watch. I don't think Virginia's hopeless. I think that they can scare FSU tomorrow night. But that game,
they definitely could.
Yeah, that game's gonna be a lot of fun. from a Canes perspective, it's about Carson Beck. He can't be bad.
Yeah.
He was bad. He was bad against the Florida Gators. But the run game, the defense, held off the Gators and they dominated. They won 26-7.
Yeah.
But that game had 42-7 all over it if Carson Beck plays well. And he just did not. He was bad.
I think the one thing that would concern me not concern me, I mean, you're the number 2 team in the nation for a reason. The one thing that would slightly worry me is obviously Notre Dame week 1. You don't throw out week 1 results. Obviously, that was a great result to beat the Irish, and but how good are Florida? They're not obviously not a bad team. But then for Florida State, you could ask exactly the same questions. How good are Alabama? And we'll find that out this weekend, I think, when they play Georgia. So I think we'll get a lot of questions, sort of peripheral questions, answered before we even get to our game next week, just in terms of, okay, so Bama have just beaten Georgia, or they got blown out by Georgia, and they're not, this perhaps isn't a good team at all. And the fact that Florida State beat them, we take them with a pinch of salt. I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, the big concern is that there was a point there in the third quarter where the numbers were the numbers. Canes had 240 yards, and the Gators had 30. They had 15 first downs. The Gators had 1.
Yeah.
And you're puffing your chest and you're pretty excited, but the scoreboard reads 13-0.
Yeah. I mean,
like
Florida
the scoreboard should have read 30-0 at that point after those numbers,
I mean, I know he had 5 or 6 touchdowns, 5 or 6 picks, DJ Lagway, but Florida still passed for 287 yards against LSU's defense, which is pretty good and full of serious NFL players. Their offense only mustered 61 yards passing against your boys. So I think that, that says a lot.
Yeah. But we'll talk a little bit. Well, we kind of ran over on this, but it tells you how excited we are for that game.
Yeah,
it's great. It's about time that these two teams are good the same season.
Yeah, college football is better if Florida State and Miami are top 5, top 6 teams. It just is. I think it just is.
Yeah, and it's always better when FSU and Miami are really good and they're playing games that matter, and the Gators are absolute abject garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, you go back to those games in the 80s, the 90s games with Charlie Ward and, those games, the huge game that we had with the season we won, the 93 season when we won the national championship, that big game down at Doak, and, the Warwick Dunn years and those sorts of things. But historically, the games have been superb. And I think this rivalry is coming back because now you guys are legitimate national championship contenders. And I think even with a loss, as long as it's a close loss, we don't get blown out, I think we're, potentially playoff bound as well. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's absolutely a way. I don't believe it's happened yet in the history of college football, but there is a way where these teams can trade wins and both be 1-loss teams at the end of it all. Both make the playoffs and play each other a third time. Like that's entirely possible. So that can happen.
Tony White, our defensive coordinator, just does a fantastic job of coming up with singular game plans. I mean, he did it last year with Nebraska against Ohio State. He did it in week 1 against where they just physically dominated Alabama in that game. So I think for as good as your defensive line is, I think that we'll have some questions for Carson Beck. And as I said earlier on, we know what the situation is when Carson gets pressured. And actually, the weekend I was going through some stats for Beck around next year's draft book, and I was looking at his passer rating and his pressure situations. In 2024, his passer rating under pressure went down from 99.4% without pressure in clean pockets to 51.7%. And I think he's kind of continually struggled to find a way out of cloudy pockets. So I'm really looking forward to it. But big challenge ahead this week certainly for us. I don't even know who you are playing this week.
They have a bye week.
Oh,
they have a bye week. Yeah.
So it'll be good. Some good games. All
right. We're gonna call it right here. We will have results the next time we talk to you. It's a Monday night football game, so there is no Monday night 3YPC. We'll do it on Tuesday, and we'll talk about this game. And then next Thursday, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the Panthers, but we're going to look forward to FSU Miami because it's going to be a lot of fun. But till then,
Da-da-da, da-da-da.